Hello, welcome to the second session of Management Perspective Unit. So in the first session, in about 30 minutes, we discussed the management. We introduced what we mean by management, and we are going to continue our discussion about the management. Okay. Right. So today we are going to discuss about the management functions in more detail, the skills that managers need to have, and yeah, they are the main ones that we discussed that we need to have the to have as a manager. Okay, right. So yes, we discussed about the work methods based on Mintzberg research. That's, by the way, that's Mintzberg research. Mintzberg's concept is one of the things that you can consider for your assessments. And again, we are going to have a look at the assessments as well in this session. Okay, and now managerial roles based on Mintzberg's research. Okay, Mintzberg actually suggests that there are three roles that managers take. Okay, at managerial level. Okay, so you can consider if in the organization we have, let's say we have a pyramid. We have at the bottom level we have the operational team, and then we have the managerial team, and we have the senior manager or the management board, if you like, on the top, or the leadership team. Okay, so at managerial level, we also need to have the interpersonal skill. Well, yes, that sounds like familiar to us because at any level, we also need to have the interpersonal skills. Okay, we have interpersonal roles. Either we do operational or we do managerial roles in the organization. Okay, and in terms of from the managerial perspective, the interpersonal roles that we undertake includes these three aspects: the figurehead, okay, the leader, and the liaison. Okay, as the figurehead, if you are a manager of our business function like finance, R&D, or sales, or manufacturing, okay, or marketing, for instance, okay, we perform symbolic duties of a legal or social nature in the organization. Okay, now in saying that, we if you look at that, we have the word in here, social nature. In the next following sessions, we are going to discuss some key some foundation theories, if you like, or the pillars that help management scholars to construct the theoretical thinking. Okay, so yeah, we are going to cover that as to help you writing your own literature review in your assessments. Okay, and yes, so that actually is an acknowledgement that our organization is a social is a social actor. Okay, so we interact with someone else. Okay, and when we interact with the other parties in our specific organization, we actually need someone to symbolize the figurehead, to take that figurehead symbol. Okay, we also need to acknowledge that at interpersonal level, we also take the role as the leader. Okay, where we build the relationships with the subordinates, for instance. Okay, we communicate with, motivate, and coach them, for instance. Okay. Now, in saying that, that concept leader is also critical for us to understand. Therefore, in the next few sessions, we are going to discuss specifically about what we mean by leadership. Okay, and we are going to discuss about the examples from the business perspective. Okay, and if you look at your reading material, you'll also be able to find from the sport management perspective, we have a couple of leaders like Sir Alex Ferguson and also Jose Mourinho, for instance. They have two different types of leadership. Okay, and we are going to revisit the leadership style in the next few sessions. Okay, go through these articles, go through these reading materials, and that helps you to understand that leader is not only one style. It contains a few styles. It also contains the relationships. Okay, with either with subordinates. If you're a manager and you have subordinates or direct reports, okay, so you basically lead them. Okay, and when you lead them, it's not necessarily about giving directions only, but you also need to think about building the relationships. Okay, now that how you build relationships, it is also affected by the culture of the organization. Okay, and the culture of the organization may be also affected by, in the broader sense, the culture of where the market that we operate. Okay, and we are going to briefly have a look at the culture context. Okay, after we discuss the foundation theories next few sessions. Okay, and liaison, the last role. The last interpersonal role in the managerial work, basically in the managerial task, basically means to maintain networks of contacts outside work unit who provide help and information. Okay, so now that term network has become more and more critical in today's business landscape. A number of research research findings or studies also suggest that network is an asset of the organization. Okay, and we are going to revisit this. We are going to discuss this again when it comes to the foundation theoretical framework next few sessions. Okay, after we discuss the management concepts. Basically, okay, to help us understanding the management studies in the context of social, in the social context. Okay, now again, if you go back to network again, you can also, from practical perspective, from business practical perspective, think about how you build and maintain the network within the organization and also with the other organization. Okay, that is actually part of the asset of the organization. Okay, and you can also, in your reflection, all right, if you go back to your assessment, for instance, in your reflection, you can also ask yourself the benefits that you gain from network. Okay, either the benefits for yourself as the owner of the network or the participant of the network, and also the benefit for the organization because of your network. Okay, so think about that as well from practical perspective, right? By the way, at the end of the day, the assessments and also our study also leads us to see the implementation of the key concepts that we discussed in our subjects. Okay, so yes, that's the first manager role, which is basically the interpersonal role, where again, this is actually an acknowledgement that the organization contains people. Okay, at the end of the day, the organization contains people, okay, employees like us. So we actually interact with someone else. Okay, as a manager, these are the things that we need to consider. Consider when it comes to interpersonal roles, right? Based on Mintzberg research. Okay. Mintzberg also suggests that the other role that we need to have, that we need to perform, is the informational role in our managerial role. Okay, in our managerial tasks. Okay, so that includes our task to monitor. Okay, that means we need to seek the information. Okay, in both internal and external information about issues affecting the organization. Okay, this is our responsibility. Okay, so that we need to keep updated. We need to keep updating ourselves with the information out there. Okay, either about our competitors, about the macro changes, for instance, the macro environmental changes, and also about the internal information, such as the organizational directions, for instance, the strategic direction that the company is undertaking, for instance, the new technologies that the company decides to adopt, for instance. Okay, the new policies that the organization introduce. Okay, in fact, we may also need to get involved in making that decision. Okay, and the next one is actually about the we are also the disseminator. Okay, that means yes, we collect the information, we monitor the information. In our attempt to monitor the information, we do the analysis and interpretation of the information, because we are not going to be the post man or post woman passing on the information to our managers right ahead, above us. We give the analysis and information. Okay, now when we do that, we actually perform what we call as the dissemination of the information. We transmit the information internally that we obtain from either internal or external sources. Okay, now when we transmit, we actually again not just transmit the information, we also provide with the insights of the information. Okay, this is the insights. This is what I think we need to do as an organization. This is the information I've researched, and therefore these are the things that we need to do. Okay. Now, as the in doing our role in the context of informational, we also become the spokesperson. Okay, the spokesperson. Okay, so we represent the organization to talk to the outsiders, right? At some point of time, we may need our customers, for instance. Okay, so we speak with our customers. If you work in marketing, for instance, and you meet the customers, you represent the organization to speak to the customers. Okay. Or when you meet with the suppliers, for instance, okay, if you work in the procurement department, you meet the suppliers, you represent the organization to speak on behalf of the organization to your supplier. Okay, and because of the information that you analyze, because of the information that you receive, okay, you may also need to be in the position of negotiating with these with the other parties. Okay, all right. So that's the second one, the second managerial role, which is basically about informational role, where we collect or we gather the information that we obtain internally or externally, and we transmit it, and we also convey that to the outsiders, the other parties beyond the organization. Right, the next role is actually about decisional. So this is the third manager role that Mintzberg suggests based on his research. Okay, now this is also important. All right, it's important. Each role is important for us to be successful because it is a package, if you like. It is a package when it comes to performing this our role as a manager. Okay, the first one in doing our role, in doing our decisional role, we perform the entrepreneurial tasks. Okay, so we act as the initiator, designer, and encourager of change and innovation. Okay, right. Now let's step back a little bit. Okay, the entrepreneur. Okay, that word entrepreneur becomes a may have become the new buzzword probably in the management world. All right, at least in the management studies, that word will come back to us. Okay, so what is entrepreneur actually? Well, entrepreneur comes from the French word entreprendre. That means to undertake. Okay, from business perspective, the entrepreneur in here or the undertake in here, actually we undertake the opportunity. Okay, so we capture the opportunity, all right, and we convert that opportunity into ideas. All right, when it becomes ideas, it becomes an idea, then we convert that into specific new product, new service, or new process that solves the customer's problem better. Okay, that brings solution for the stakeholders of the organization. Okay, therefore that word entrepreneur is related to the innovation concepts. Okay, and when you think about it further, innovation is also related to the word creativity. Okay, so yes, you think about it further. Decision requires us to be innovative, and of course, when it comes to innovative, it also requires us to be creative to find the options to help solving the problem. Okay, right. So that's basically entrepreneur. Okay. Now, the other thing I'd like to highlight in terms of the entrepreneur is that this word has become a one of the critical the new management jargon actually that in our organization we are also required to demonstrate our entrepreneurial skills, basically to make the decision to capture opportunity. Okay, and why is that? And actually, if we ask ourselves about why is that, because if we step back a little bit in our economic system, which is basically the capitalism system, we actually acknowledge that the drivers of the economy is actually the entrepreneurial activities. Okay, so there was a debate ages ago until now it's actually still ongoing between the communism system and the capitalism system. If we step back a little bit to look into a different discipline, okay, still in the social context, okay. And the scholars who support the capitalism system will survive actually suggest that the economy will still grow because we have what we call as the entrepreneurs, right? There are always entrepreneurs out there that drive the economic growth because they can offer something better for the customers, that drive the consumption in the market. Okay, how do they do that? Now, the entrepreneurs have a toolbox that, which is basically the innovation that has become the toolbox. Okay, and the next thing is basically about the disturbance handler, which is basically part of our decisional role. Look, in our life, okay, of course, in our manager role, we always have issues, right? we can't expect that things go smoothly like we are sailing, okay? So there may be issues that we need to handle, okay? Well, having issues or problems in the organization is not something sinful because they are part of our day-to-day life, okay? And the thing is, it will be an issue if we do not manage it, okay? We let the ball drop, okay? So we don't want that, okay? So it is part of our roles actually in decision, is part of our decisional role actually to take corrective action, fix it, okay? That's why we got paid for as the manager, okay? We identify the issues based on our skills before, let's say here in our monitor, we monitor the information internally and externally, and then we find, okay, there are some issues in here. Then it is also our role to take corrective action, right? At least to propose it, to make a recommendation. This is the recommended step. These are the things that we need to do, and we expect that to happen because of this and that. Okay, and after that, that is also related to the resource allocator. Okay, so in our role. In this aspect, we actually allocate the resources for the organization. So in here, we distribute the resources of all types, including time, funding, okay, equipment, and human resources. Now, if you look at that, time is actually the resources that that can always come back to us the next day, but they are not replenishable. Okay, funding, equipment, and human resources, that's what people say as the as a traditional resources. Okay, the financial resources, the equipment, they are basically that's what people suggest as the people label as the traditional resources. Okay, with funding and human resources, we can get the equipment. Okay, and the other thing that we also need to think about is in today's business landscape, scholars also suggest that the companies need to consider the network as well as part of the resources, as we briefly discussed before. Okay, and we'll come back to this one in the next few sessions when it comes to discussing the social theory. Okay, as part of the understanding the framework of the management discussion. And in our decisional role, we also become the negotiator. Okay, so we negotiate. We represent the organization, all right, in major negotiations affecting our own area of responsibility, our own business function. Okay, so we negotiate with the others, all right? So you can think about an organization structure. If you are the sales manager, for instance, you negotiate, you discuss with the other business functions, either marketing, finance, for instance, you negotiate the amount of resources, the amount of funding that you can get for your department, okay, the resources that you can get for your department, for instance. You may propose, hey, hang on a second, guys, to our vision next year is basically to deliver that growth, and I have reviewed the my internal information. Again, you need to look at it as the entire package, as discussed before. These three roles are a package that we need to perform. Okay, and we can also, based on my analysis, I need 3 more sales reps, for instance. Otherwise, we will not be able to achieve the growth target that we have outlined together. Okay. All right. So there are the 3 manager roles: the interpersonal role, the informational role, and the decisional role. Again, I would suggest that you look at these 3 manager roles as a package. Okay. Now, in saying that, one manager in one organization may perform, may allocate their effort or time differently. Okay, some managers in the organization may be more decisional. The other managers may be more informational, whilst the other managers may be more interpersonal than the other roles that they perform. Okay, but the three roles are a package. Okay, so they perform all three roles. It's just a matter of which one they perform with more weight rather than the others. Okay, now it doesn't mean the others are not that important. It's probably because of the culture in the organization. Okay, it's probably because of the job description that has been given to this person. So this person should actually deliver the roles differently. Okay. Right, so you can observe that. That's one of the possible research questions for your assessment. Basically, you can look at which manager perform more decisional, which manager perform more interpersonal, and which manager performs more interpersonal or informational. Okay, right now. In doing those roles, we actually need to have the skills, okay? Of course. If we don't have the skills, we will not be able to perform the roles, right? Therefore, the Bartel actually suggests that there are three management skills that we need to perform. The first one is the technical skills. Second one is about people skill or human skills, if you like, and the third one is the conceptual skills, where we can theorize, in quote unquote, to contribute to the business model, the business strategy that the company is going to take. Okay, is going to undertake. All right. The technical skills basically involves both an understanding of and a proficiency in the specialized fields. Okay, so if you are if you're hired as a marketing person, then you need to know marketing, for instance, marketing technical skills, right? Or if you are hired as the accounting manager, for instance, you need to be an accountant, all right? So you need to understand the accounting discipline, all right, and so on and so forth, of course. So that's pretty straightforward, I guess. Okay. Now, this is the thing. The technical skills alone is not enough. Okay. Yes, at school we build a lot of schools actually focus on the technical skills. Okay, but we also need to consider that we need to develop different skills as well so we can perform the key management functions. Okay. And in fact, last year I attended a seminar, and one of the findings of the research basically suggests that companies normally are confident to be able to train the new recruits with the technical skills. In fact, they must do that. Okay, so although we have graduated our studies, for instance, we have the technical knowledge, for instance, okay, but the way we do things may be different from one organization to the other organization, all right? Let's say if you build your expertise in marketing, so you have the technical skills in marketing, but the way the other organization perform marketing may be different, okay? So you need to learn how this company performs marketing, for instance. They may have different process, for instance, okay? So, therefore, companies would normally have that kind of training program to help the employees adjusting their skills to be ready to take that role. Okay. The next thing is actually the human skills. Again, if we only depend on the technical skills, it is not enough for us, okay, to perform the managerial duties. Okay, the human skills or people skills in here is another important skills as well. So it is actually associated to the ability to work with the other people in the organization. Okay, so therefore, we can perform the interpersonal skills, okay, interpersonal roles, right? Now, the next one is the conceptual skills, okay? So it is actually related to our ability to see the organizations as a whole and identify the connection between one part or one thing to the other thing in the organization, and to see where it fits in the wider context of the industry, community, and the global context. So that requires us to be able to crunch a potentially complicated information and elevate it to the concepts. Okay, so we can conceive the business model for the organization. Okay, so that's basically the key management skills, guys. Now, in the next session, we are going to continue with our topic, and I actually intend to discuss the assessment as well. But now, this is the thing that I'd like to also discuss with you guys, and in terms of the assessments. Okay, so this is our assessment. Okay, again, 2,000 word limit. Okay, and they are the instructions that we need to consider. There are 6 instructions. Okay, pretty much we are writing a research report. Okay, now in doing so, I have outlined my advice. This is my advice, and if you look at that, the words in bold are the ones that we need to also need to crunch. There are some hints. Okay, so that's the approach. Okay, you select the organization that you want to focus on. Okay, introduce this organization. Okay, outline the literature review. Okay, so here you need to go through a range of theoretical framework, a range of theoretical concepts. Okay, you can look at the organizational theory, Mintzberg, the ones that we just discussed, file or social theory that we are going to discuss the next few sessions. Okay, consider a range of them. Okay, and then based on that, you outline the 3 research questions. I just gave you some illustrations in this presentation. Okay, you can consider the legitimacy, politics, and social environment, basically, and after that, you explain the research method, collected data. Okay, remember the pretty much the assessment has given us the answer for that task. So you explain the case study method, which is basically part of the qualitative method. You can refer to the Robert Kayin case study method. Okay, and explain. After that, you perform your research, collect the data, and explain the key findings of your research. Okay. And yes, that's basically tonight, and I'll see you in the next session.